Good morning in the San Diego time zone. I am about to do a live interview with author Wendy Beasley, and first and foremost, I've got to get her online with me. So this is always the fun part, trying to get someone to join. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. In Wendy's time zone, it's actually about to be good evening. Hey, you're on!
We did it.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, good evening to you, I guess.
And good afternoon to you.
Thank you. I'm still on my second cup of coffee.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, yes. So I am going to just jump right into this because, we've got 30 minutes here. I've got a little outline, but I want to completely be free to go off topic. And first and foremost, I just want to give you the floor so you can talk about your work. She has a new book out called Beasts and Butterflies. I read it in 2 days. It was amazing. But in your words, just give the audience a little bit of a tour of it.
Right. Well, I started writing many, many years ago, but never played with fiction at all. It was always non-fiction, journalistic columns, articles. And then I suddenly found a story I'd written years and years ago for my granddaughter called Charlotte and the Fairies, and thought, I don't know, I'll try this. Sent it off to a publisher and it was accepted. So it sort of fired me up.
That's
And
amazing.
that came out as my first book, a little book for little ones, Charlotte and the Fairies. And then I thought, I don't know, maybe I could write fiction really for adults. And I just ran with what was in my head. I write really as if I'm telling myself a story. I don't have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I have a situation. And I generally try to write in the first person so that I can experience the situation and feel what the protagonist is feeling. So this is how I wrote Beasts and Butterflies. And I changed it round in that it didn't start where it started and the piece that starts it now was the middle, but I played with it until I was happy with it and then sent it off to loads of people who really got very little response. But eventually it did get published, and this is my first adult book, and it's out there, and I'm thrilled to bits with it.
Oh, that is fantastic. Can I ask from the time you actually started writing that to now, like how much time has actually passed?
Um, well, Beasts and Butterflies was picked up and dropped lots of times. During the last couple of years I was working, because I'm retired now, I did bits and left it and did bits and left it. And so it probably took, well, I don't know, 4 or 5 years to get it to the publication stage.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
since it's been published, I have written 3 more books.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and I'm talking in a year. So I am quite prolific once I get started.
That's amazing. And these ideas, I mean, do you have ways that you get inspired or go creative, go for walks or, certain activities that just all of a sudden your brain starts firing?
Yes. Um, I hate to admit it, but a lot comes to me in the bath. I don't know why that's me, but it does. Um, Certainly when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think of when I wake up in the morning are plots. They
Yes.
come into my head, what if? And I write the story like that. What if? What could happen now? What would happen now? I'm alternating between little children's books, tiny children's books, middle grade sort of chapter books, and adult
Oh,
women's fiction.
wow.
Really. So I'm always, my mind's always running with something. And if I find I get a block and nothing will come, then I turn to the other genre, and usually I can get going with that. So as I say, at the moment I have 2 completed children's books and 1 completed adult that haven't yet reached publication.
Okay.
and I'm working on another children's book and another adult book. So
Oh
it's
my
all,
gosh.
you know,
You are a
now I need a
busy
literary
woman.
agent. Well, now I need a literary agent who will take it round and take it to publishers, because trying to do things on your own isn't easy. And this is why, I mean, thank goodness for Stephanie Rebel, who's done all this for me,
Yes,
because she is amazing and she's set all this up so that I can tell people about the books.
that is so fantastic. She had tuned into Maria and I doing an interview, and then she messaged me, and I was like, you know what? It's a fantastic thing, and she seems like a wonderful person. She's been great to work with. So, um,
It works so hard.
it's getting the work out there and finding your readers is so hard. Have you connected with any readers? Has anyone that's read the book that you don't know reached out and said like, "Oh my gosh, I read this story," and
Oh, yes. I've had reviews from people I don't know, and it's amazing because you expect your friends to give you a good review and your family, but when you get them from people you don't know, and I know this won't go on like this, but so far all the reviews have been fabulous. You know, I'm very easily deflated, so if I get a horrible
oh,
review, I should. But so far they've been really good on both books,
yeah,
and people are really going with it and saying, "When's your next book?" And I'm thinking, well, they're all there waiting.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't really, and I know lots of people won't agree with this, but for me, self-publishing isn't the way to go, because I need that endorsement. I need that this is good and we'd like to publish it. And then I have the confidence to go ahead. If I'm putting it out there, how do I know if it's any good? You know, I
yeah.
really would love to be traditionally published, as, you know, as I was with the very first children's book.
That is so cool and so hard. Like when you say, I put it out there, and then you actually got that like acceptance letter. When you first got, told from a publisher, hey, we're going to take this. Like, what did you do? Did you celebrate? Did you do a little dance?
But yeah, unfortunately, the children's book was snapped up like that. There was a
Oh,
traditional contract. We'd like to publish it, and away they went with it. And I had a wonderful illustrator, somebody who lived locally, who did the drawings, and it was just so easy. And I was naive enough to think this was publishing. You know, this is.
yes.
And when I wanted Beasts and Butterflies to go out, I immediately went to the same publisher who
Okay.
said they'd like to publish it, but they would only look at a shared contract. And I was, I don't know now, arrogant perhaps, but I thought, no, I want a proper contract. You know, I've published her. And
Yeah.
so I to lots of others, and I got many offers of shared contracts.
Oh,
Nobody
nice.
offered me the original. So I went back to the original one, and I have done Beasts and Butterflies on a shared contract,
Okay.
because how do you get it out there? And I doubt if I'll ever put the money I put into it. You know, you put money in, if I don't know if I'll ever see it, but I'm passionate about getting the stories out there. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And it's paid off because people like it.
Yes. And people need it. Like, yeah, when people read those stories, it connects. It gives them something. It allows them the space to process their own thoughts and even just getting to escape into another world for a while. I I love how you took really deep and very intense subject matter, but you made it effortless to wander through. As a reader, I never once was like feeling the tragedy and emotions. I was just capable of really empathizing with this character, experiencing how that affected her whole life. You just really had a lot of depth there, which readers, that's a gift. Like getting to read that and experience it is wonderful. So you getting it out there is fantastic.
Well, I find, to my own surprise, really, that I do tend to feature quite dark subjects, and I
You
don't know
do.
why. It hasn't happened to me, but I love the idea of having girls, women, who are strong enough to come through these really traumatic situations and come out the other side and win and be stronger
Yeah.
for it. And the new book I've written now, called Angel, is another very dark story to begin with, and it goes to some very dark places. But I just think it makes the recovery so much stronger if they've been somewhere like that. And well, I enjoy it. I really do. I enjoy making them come through these things and
Yes.
come out the other.
So are these the things that you're like laying in bed in the morning and you've got the situation in your mind and you just kind of go, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and just work it all
Yeah,
out?
it's like telling you the story, really. It's the best way. It's like, it's better than reading because you make the ending. So
Yes, you
it's,
get to pick it. You're like, yes, I get to choose. And I loved your ending. I was reading it. I was like, oh my God, this put it all together. And yeah, it was great. It took me a while. I was reading it and I was like, where did she go? And then about a couple pages in, I finally clicked and
yeah. Well, as I say, I've just started a third adult book, and when I started it, which was yesterday, really, I had some ideas, but I had no idea what exactly and how the things would happen. And today I'm so excited. My head is buzzing with, I could, yes, you know. So I'm loving it, and I've only just discovered fiction, and I'm not in the first flush of youth, and I've never found anything so enthralling as to sit down and make things happen. It's fabulous. It's a wonderful pastime.
that is, I mean, you just said that you're not, the years that we have in our lives give us wisdom. And in order to write, I know everyone that's young is like, oh, I'm great. I've got the breadth to write. But I'm sorry, I think it takes living the span of a lifetime, like having 50 years of experiencing adult life, like really that gives your writing so much depth. And then you can take characters through that whole experience. And it's a gift to sit down now in your retirement years and still have that wherewithal and the passion. It's so inspiring.
Well,
Which
I think it fights off dementia, doesn't it?
oh my God, yes, absolutely, absolutely. It does. Um,
Well, I know I applied to several literary agents and it wasn't taken up. And somebody said to me, you shouldn't tell them how old you are because they think you're over the hill. So,
oh
so
my
maybe that's
gosh, yeah,
oh
yeah.
dear.
Well, I mean, if they read your writing, that's all that matters because I certainly feel like it's ageless. And that's what the best writing, I mean, my favorite books feel like they just could exist at any, frame of time. That's the glory of writing is it lives forever.
You.
So you were talking about dark subject matter, and then you also write children's books. And I haven't checked out your children's book. I need to. But that was something as soon as I finished mine was like I wanted to write a children's book. Oh, yay!
Oh, so it's my escapism. I was very lucky enough to have a fantastic storytelling mother, and I
Oh,
grew up hearing fairy stories from my mother and either made up or read, and she brought fairy stories alive. So my advanced years, I can still see fairies. I still believe in fairies and fantasy. And my own reading matter has gone through Harry Potter to the Whitehaven Witches so I'm into fantasy. Now
yes.
I don't think I'm clever enough to write adult fantasy, but children's fantasy is so much fun. It just can go where you want it to. It's lovely.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, you can take dark material and put it into children's fan, or you just have
Yes.
to approach it differently. And I mean, one of my favorite quotes from Madeleine L'Engle is you have to write the book that wants to be written. And if it's too difficult for grown-ups, you write it for children. Like there's a lot of good, just sort of moral overarching things, but adults just don't get it. So you're like, yeah, let's put this into a children's package. Have you
Well,
done that?
I've written a book called The Sheepdog Who Didn't Like Sheep. And as I say, it's waiting for publication, and it's not fantasy. It's a story for 8 to 12-year-olds. And it's really hard hitting. And it's about a little girl who's trying to save her puppy. And it's quite hard hitting, but fun. And I really enjoyed that. So really I'm looking at three things. I'm looking at fantasy, I'm looking at children of an older age, and I'm looking at adults. So I can go where I like.
I love it. Now, in your earlier life, like what was your career before you got into retirement and writing?
Well, I've always worked in offices of various sorts, accountants, solicitors, council offices. I've always done office work
Okay.
and written as a sideline. So
Okay.
once I was offered a regular weekly column in a national journal on my hobby of dogs. And once I got into that, I sort of got into the habit of writing. It had to be done. It had deadlines. It had to be accurate. I had to do the reporting as it happened. So I got to be disciplined writer through
Yeah.
that. And now I still have a certain discipline. I do write for a certain amount of hours every day, not weekends, but every day other than that. And I think it did me good to have the discipline, both of office work and column writing, to keep me writing sometimes when it's not as easy as it might be.
Yes, yes. And I love that, I mean, you don't have a literary agent. You don't have anyone above you giving these deadlines or demanding the stories. They're just flowing and you're doing it because you love it.
Yes.
That's phenomenal. Now, for some odd reason, I was under the impression that working dogs was actually part of your former career life, but that is just your passion.
My passion, my hobby. Yes, I have border collies. I've owned, bred and worked them for 50 years, and I have been quite successful in a sport called working trials and obedience. So it's a very strong passion,
Yes.
and my writing used to centre around that, all non-fiction, and I've written training books and working dog books and things like this. But of course, we've had lockdown. I haven't been able to do any dog training or shows or anything.
Okay.
So the writing filled that stopgap very nicely. And well, it's in danger of taking over.
Right? Yes. It's crazy how quarantine just kind of made everybody reset. And then when you go
Yeah,
back and you're like, okay, now I got used to having all of this time to write and create, and you have to go to real world and find how to get it all back in that space again.
yes. I mean, I love working the dogs and will return to working the dogs. And in fact, I should be breeding another litter this year. But
Oh,
my writing, my writing now will be a major part of my life because I just didn't know how much I'd enjoy it.
that is fantastic. It really is like it just fuels you. Okay, how many hours a day, can I ask? What's your like,
Well, I tend to go up to my office around about 9 o'clock, and I'm there till lunchtime. But I do also work for my husband, who's a self-employed technician, and I do deliveries and I do accounts. So sometimes I'm interrupted and I work for him a few hours a day. But other than that, it's sort of it's a day's work. Come down usually about 5 in the evening, and I will have stopped for lunch. And other than that, yes, I write. It's not always writing. Sometimes it's revising. Sometimes it's looking at something that I'm not happy with. Today I had a new project with this new book, and I've just bashed away all day. But tomorrow I'll probably have a more critical look at it.
yes, that's so for me, I feel like I have to wear different hats when I'm in different phases of writing. It's like when I'm just getting the story out, I try to pound it all out and then that's when I will go to the bar and I will drink and I will write at late hours and I will let myself get in these dark spaces. And then when I'm editing, I'm like, okay, now I've got to be functional writer and I've got to put on a whole different lens to see the story. But if you're getting in,
I have a friend who edits for me. She's really
oh,
good. She's really marvelous. But it's a bit like when you have a cleaner and you clean your house before they come. I don't like to send it to her till
yes.
I've really did it myself. And she said to me in the initial stages, it's like you don't draw breath, Wendy, when you're writing. You just so I have to think punctuation now.
All right. So I'm not sure if you have any listeners that tuned in today or any readers, but I kind of wanted to open up the floor to see if anyone that is here had any questions for Wendy. I'm going to give it just a couple minutes, but and in the meantime, I guess for you, as far as where Beast and Butterflies is right now, are you really working to like promote it, stay in that headspace, going out and like talking to people or doing books stores or anything like that? Or
The trouble is, we're not really up and running here yet.
okay,
Stores are only just opening. I have sent copies of the children's book to the schools, and the adult book, I did try a couple of bookshops, but they said they weren't doing any signings or talkings as yet.
okay,
So no, I've not. Everything's been done this way,
on the internet.
and I'm learning as I go along. I had no idea that writing involved so much promotion. I hadn't got a clue. I
Yeah.
thought you just wrote a book and somebody else did all that.
Yes, exactly. I feel like it's changed so much. I think if you talk to somebody even 20 years ago that had been writing, this was something they didn't even know was going on. But
And I really want to push the book because the success of Beasts and Butterflies will have an impact on whether anybody accepts my other books. And I'm so proud of Angel that I've just finished my other adult book. I really, really want to get it out there. I feel it's really good. And I wasn't with Beasts and Butterflies, but with this one, I think, yes, this is it. This is the one I want to get out there. So it's important that I make a good job of promoting the first one.
absolutely, absolutely. Did you have like a target audience, or was there, in your mind, were you writing the story? You said you're just kind of writing it to tell yourself. Was there like a version?
Put my target audience as women's fiction, really, because I used to read an awful lot. Well, I still do, but and I want to be able to dip into a book and it take me away from what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm at, really. I want someone to, and I have had people say I couldn't put it down. I had to, had to read it through, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. I don't think necessarily it's a man's book, although I have had some reviews from men, so obviously some have read it.
Yeah.
And it's not a children's book, but I do think I'm aiming at the sort of women's fiction type market.
Yeah.
And I do think I was a bit worried that the title Beast and Butterflies might make people think it was for children. So I do hope they read the blurb.
I know I looked at that and I was thinking, how did she come up with Beast and Butterflies? And is she, but I from the cover, it's so tough. Book covers are a difficult thing, and you want it to sort of represent the story, but you want it to be enticing. And my good friend Maria Keeley, she actually did ask a question, but she had posted this hilarious like story of all of these overly used book covers, and it was literally the same picture, like a person standing in the center with the thing and a person standing in the center with this for all the books in Walmart. Your cover is beautiful and it stands out.
Thank you.
Can you read
now there was a question here. Somebody's asked a question.
Yes.
What inspires your stories? And I can only say a single idea. This one I'm doing at the moment, I had a single idea. If something happened, what would follow? And it's as simple as that's all I start with. It's just a single idea inspires my stories. And I honestly can say when I sit down and start writing, I have no idea where it's going. And every time I get the next step, it's so exciting. So no, I don't have the story in my head. I just have the single idea.
I love it. And then you're just chasing the trail and like letting it go. And so with that, because last week Maria and I were talking about writing in Scrivener, because that's what she uses. And I'm just old school. Me and Eddie, my friend Eddie's on here as well. We're all writers. So we both write in Word. And she was talking about that ability to take the chapters and like move it around and go, okay, the story's not working here, but if I rearrange it, and you can really do that with Scrivener. Is that what you're using too, or?
I'm using Word and I still do that. So I just, I just cut and paste.
I do too. I just thought if I was trying to use Scrivener, I would spend more time figuring out how to use the program and not enough time writing.
Yeah, just Word me. It's as basic as it gets. And yes, I do agree that I very often move the book around,
Okay.
move the chapter around, change the order. And I do like to, I didn't do it in Beast and Butterflies, but in Angel and the one I'm writing now, I do like writing the book from everyone's perspective. So I
Okay.
tend to write it in the first person, but for all characters,
Oh, so
or
you,
for the main characters. And I find that really exciting because it gives you the ability to know what they're really thinking and what their reasons really are if you can write it from their perspective.
yes,
So that's what I did in the one I've just finished, and that's what I'm attempting to do in the one I've just started.
that is brilliant. When you can, I mean, it's so, when you're talking about in your brain, what you have to think of when you're writing first person from one person's like
Yeah.
motivations, and then you have to switch, and then you're writing one person, and then it's completely different motivators, a different mentality, and yet you need to make the reader believe that these thoughts are completely separated. You know, oh my gosh, good for you for going to that
Well, I
space.
just so thought that you tend to make reasons for why people do things, and if they're doing bad things, you just make it because they're bad. But
Yes,
if you can see it from a point of view, it might not be that
right.
they're bad. There may be reasons. So this is why I try and do it from each character's point of view.
Do you kind of have an idea of what each character is and what their like backstory is, and have that all kind of pictured out in advance
No,
before
it
you start
comes
writing
as I
about them?
write. No, it comes as I write.
Does
As
it?
I write about them, I get to know them. Um, I'm not a good. People will tell you my books don't tend to be over descriptive. You know, I don't tell you that the wind is blowing in the trees and the water is sparkling, only if it's relevant. And I think it's because I don't like reading it. I can't
Yeah,
bear great paragraphs in the middle of a book which is telling me things I don't need to know. So so I don't.
right. Only when it needs like a little pause, and then all of a sudden, let's get back to the meat of it. Let's, yes,
I
I,
just want the story. And I had to go back and um, add to this Angel I've just finished because it came out too short. And they don't want them that short.
yeah,
But I think it's so important to move the story and not spend too much time. I don't care whether she's got green eyes. You know, that's unimportant. And so I tend to be quite basic in my description, but more about feelings, about thoughts,
yeah.
than about surroundings.
Well, you did that very well, and I didn't notice a lack of it, but I also didn't find myself going, okay, yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
know that the
yeah.
ocean is blue, and
Oh, you
I
know.
love it. Well, we are coming up on the end of our 30 minutes here. Does anyone else have any questions before we call it? Anyone? This has been so fun, by the way. This has just been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad I got to start my day off speaking with you, and I'm so excited to see what comes next. I wish you all of the best. Like if you,
It's fine.
her book, I'm going to have links as soon as this is done. I'll get it all, put together on there, and I'll have my link in bio where you'll be able to find how to purchase it. It is available on Amazon.
Well, it's on Amazon, yes. It should be on Amazon Kindle, but they seem to be having some sort of problem with that, and the publisher is tracking it down. It's certainly on Kindle Unlimited,
Okay.
and it's, as I say, available at Amazon in the US. So
Okay.
that and Pegasus publishers will send it direct if there's any difficulty. So
Okay. So you're
um,
with Pegasus Publishers.
Pegasus publishers, yeah.
Are you in? So no bookstores yet.
Oh yes, I believe I'm
Oh,
in most of them.
oh,
Um,
okay.
think there's certainly, if you go on, you search for the title, it comes up in very many different bookstores. And so, yes, I think I am. But it's been down to the publisher's distribution. I didn't have anything to do with that. So.
Okay, okay. So you may be able to find it anywhere. Yeah, just
Yes,
look it up
yes.
and
And Waterstones, I don't know if you have Waterstones, but Waterstones will get it in. And most bookshops, if they don't stock it, will get it on request.
okay, okay. Perfect. Well, we will have all of those channels available to you shortly. Wendy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. That is a huge
Thank
accomplishment.
Well, I'm thrilled. And can I ask, I'm very ignorant about Instagram, but is it possible that you can send me the link for this so that I can find
Yes, and
and share?
actually, I will tag you in all of this, and I will message you all the different ways to do it. And then my friend Eddie is way better at this than I am. I'm gonna see if he can teach me how to make it into a little video I can just share with you to add to your website and everything.
It's lovely to talk to you, Maria. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
And you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.